Hey everyone, welcome back to another exciting episode of Attack Productions. Today I'm Bancroft, being joined once again by Jimmy, Austin, and like always, Fluff.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Today's episode is brought to you by the letter C for C-Rod Super Planes.
And cooler.
Yeah, there's buttons down below. Click them, they're there for a reason. Let's get into this. So today's matchup is Jimmy versus Austin. Jimmy's bringing back Mechikabura, while Austin's bringing back Cooler, which we have not seen in a while. And I know it's been picking up a lot of steam in other places, so Austin, welcome back with one of your favorite decks. Let's start with that. What changes have you done to this deck?
There's a few changes. Some of the cards I didn't have in full, and some of the cards I couldn't get. So I did a lot of changes. So some of the stuff that I did was I have added a small overrun package because you see right there, I can't remember that Trunks' name for the life of me, but basically what I did was I added 2 more red blue extra cards so that way I can send them to the warp and I can use the Son Goku rival seeker, so that way I can have some free more red blue combo pieces for a rival because of the new Championship 2021 cooler coming out that I'm adding to this. So it'll be a 1/1 of, so 4 beers, 3 rivalry seekers, while it's 4 of the 1-drop arrival cooler for double strike, and the 3 of the 3 arrival, 3 cost arrival. And it just helps a lot more with that. And then the arrival package helps you. The overall package helps you draw a little more cards, get some stuff in the drop area. Add this new unison to because Dark Power. No, that's the regular 1-drop. Dark Mass Saiyan, Brawl from Another Dimension. When you use his +1 auto for the cooler, instead of just being a -5,000, he makes you choose between -5,000 and mill 1, or give the unison 2 markers. So it's a bigger choice than usual people are used to.
So this is also a very interesting matchup because you like to mill people by negging, and Jimmy likes to mill people by drawing cards. And I know that's not Jimmy's actual style for this deck, but it is capable of doing that. So how was that interaction for you two?
So, I knew me and Austin had sat down and really worked on this deck. So I knew every card that was in his deck. I knew the way Austin likes to play cooler. He likes to play it where he does absolutely nothing, the entire game until like the last 2 turns, and then he just mills your entire deck out. So my strategy with this was, knowing Austin's playstyle, was to not care about the mill early on, draw my cards, get my hand healthy, and then just put stuff on the field to swing with. And just deal as much damage early on while he doesn't have enough energy to really do anything about it. Because I knew later on that I would not get a battle card attack through without it either being a 5k swing at the end of it or him blowing it out completely. So I wasn't too worried about conserving the deck. I was just trying to put cards on field. It really didn't work out for me early on because I really didn't see what I needed to see. But I committed to the idea, more experimental, just to see what would happen. And it was still like a really interesting game. I still really enjoyed this matchup.
Yeah, there wasn't a single match that night that I didn't enjoy and have fun. Because the one before this, I had played Green Go Tanks, and that was a really close game. I had him down to 1 card, 1 in his deck, 1 life, and a lot of the matchups tonight were just so much fun. Everyone got so close in their decks. It was just back and forth, so much fun, and I had a lot of fun bringing Cooler back because I sat on Cooler for like a year straight when he came out.
So I was really struggling to see a lot of my aggressive pieces, and he wasn't putting any cards in his drop area that I could warp to fuel my other cards. So it was a pretty much an uphill battle starting out.
Well, I'm about to ask, I see 3 negates in your energy.
Yeah, well, I knew he's not going to attack me at all, so I was just like, or attack me for games. So I was just like, all right, well, these are useless. Like, yeah, all of my defensive cards are basically useless on this matchup because he's not going to put anything on the board that's worth negating.
I feel like that's a nice kind of like counter strategy. If you know, if Austin notices that your drop area is just negates, then he switches his game to be more aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that could put you in a really dangerous situation. And I really think that's the strength of coolers, that ability to pivot from kind of like wait, do nothing reaction style. They can just go into aggro so easily with the arrival coolers and other various tools the deck has.
Yeah, and I was missing a few of those pieces for this tonight to make it that kind of more, aggressive arrival style. And that's why I'm thinking about tweaking it a little more because that's how I first played Cooler. I play it as, all right, I'm swinging with Cooler, then I'm using Combo Tycoon to swap it back. Now I'm using swap it back with the Freezer, now I'm using Herc Boo. Like, I just kept swapping pieces in and out and get as many attacks as I could in. And I had a lot of fun with that variation at first. And I'm trying to think of maybe put a little bit back in there because I want the deck to just, which it does for the most part, I can play it a little more passive or play it pretty aggressive.
And we did miss a trigger on the Dark Empire Ball to warp the trunks that is in your drop area. Now, I actually got onto you for it at one point. I think it was right there where I was like, "Why do you have all of your drop area in your warp area?" And you were just like, "I don't know," like because every time I look over on your side of the field, I was going, "He has 3 cards. Okay, I'm golden. I can start utilizing my Kais if I need to warp something, or I can play my 6-drop Massayan." And I was like, "Wait, no, that's not his. There's no way I could warp a unison. So that's his drop area." So I think I do get onto you at one point and we switch it, which I mean it's no big deal, but it did throw me off.
Yeah, at home I had been playing. When I play, we have it's a table, and so I kind of try to keep the drop area away so I don't put rest my arm on it, and that just kind of bad habit.
So
So Mechikabura being on 5 energy is really scary. What are your defensive options? Like, what are you holding for Mechikabura? Have you had a chance to play against this deck at all, Austin?
Nope.
Like, what are you like? So, what's going through your head here? So, you got the Oceanus, and then it looks like you followed it up with a Topo this turn. So, you're pressuring the hand, and then the turn prior, you were pressuring the deck. How are you feeling about that?
Honestly, I wasn't thinking too much with Cooler. That's a nice thing. I know the deck so well. I know how it plays in and out. Like it's probably the deck I take anywhere with me if I'm gonna play something like really serious. It's the one I'd rather play. And at this point, I'm like, I know what my deck does. I know what I can do. I just need to pay attention to how much cards he's drawing, kind of keep an eye on his drop area to see what he's dropping in there. And I knew some of the cards, so I kind of had an inkling of some of the things he did, but overall, I genuinely did not know what the deck wanted to do. So I just played even a little more defensive, as you saw with the Oceanus and the Topo. I was trying to force him to either drop cards or mill if he wanted to attack, and try to extend the game to see what his deck did.
Yeah, and I think that's the brilliance behind Mechikabura in a lot of ways. Is the deck can pivot so well between like 3 different styles, and it's really hard to predict and anticipate. So I didn't know if like you were preparing for a particular path. Like we see here, he's going wide for relatively little energy, which is kind of risky against you because if he swings and it opens a counter window and you're able to get a cooler or 2 out, it really changes. You could get a fair number of mills at this point.
So I felt really comfortable going wide because I dropped the Mechikabura the Broken Seal and I called 5-drop Frieza. Because I knew that was the easiest way you had to blow out my field unless you wanted to utilize your counterplay Vegeta, which would require me playing a card or you just tapping 3 energy for it on your turn. You end up using a different option, which I knew was in the deck. I just didn't expect you to go that deep on it at this point in the game, especially after you charged a energy exhaust card. Which I thought you played it before you swing, but I know you do play it this turn and snipe my field.
Yeah, the card we're talking right here. It's the right here. Well, bam, the Go Hanks Unison. That
Oh,
you see
man.
right-
Yeah.
And then Jimmy gives a thing. It tells me how that card works, and he's like, either you do this, that, or don't attack. I'm like, I'm just not gonna attack.
Well,
Like,
you
want.
can only attack one more time that turn.
Oh, one more time, yeah. So I was
Yeah.
like, that sounds great, yeah. So I'll do that option. But then, I
It negs the field by 25, right?
25 ignoring barrier.
Yeah. It's nasty. Really good as an inclusion cooler. And so Jimmy just played Dark Dragon Slaying Bullet. I have not liked that card in my testing. Like, I understand why the card is okay, but I think one of the problems with the Sin Shenron archetype that came out the set is it gives too many choices to your opponent.
Mm-hmm.
That, like, usually Jimmy and I talk about choices in a very positive light where it gives you a lot of information, but literally every card gives your opponent a choice with like an effect that would really help you out or an effect that kind of helps you out. They're not both equivocal. Like, it's either draw one card or your opponent warps the battle card they just spent energy for. Like, it's almost a no-brainer most of the time.
So, Dragon Slaying Bullet in this instance, it was not the best time to play the card, but I knew that once that Unison was on the field, he's not playing another Unison for the game, so the card's just dead in my hand, unless I wanted to utilize its Activate Main, or I think it's that Activate Main / Battle, which really doesn't help me a lot because it relies on their drop area being big, and I play a deck where they don't have the option of keeping a big drop area. So that was the only time I seen it was either going to be in the energy, or I was going to, throw it out then and give him the option because I don't know, he might be dumb and take the markers off of it. But
how do you feel about the card overall, though? Like in other matchups,
I think the card has been fantastic, and every game that I've played that card, I have won because of it.
Really,
it in wide matchups where they throw out a Unison that's going to deal damage to me, I just throw that out there, and now they either don't get their Unison, or I survive the turn.
In my sin list, I cut it down to a 2 of, because I found myself never really wanting to use it, or in a situation where it might have helped, I didn't have it. Even at a 4 of, I didn't have it. So it was like the Activate Battle, Activate Main is really the best part about that card in my usual testing. And maybe that'll change now that the format is kind of shifting.
Mm-hmm.
Because this was back during the aggro format where some of the top decks weren't necessarily playing Unisons.
So I want to bring it back to this game real quick. That play, I think, was probably one of the best plays you could have done. Combining Wolfang Fist with the Unison's auto.
Minus 25, yep.
Because that Gogeta is a triple strike. That turns around and becomes a blocker. Triple attack. That becomes a blocker. Like, just getting rid of it on the board is probably the best thing you could have done and the best way to do it. Because, like, when it's in rest mode, it can't be KO'd, right? In rest mode?
It cannot be KO'd while in rest mode.
But because you nagged it, it's gone.
Yeah, and I had a match earlier where someone used that Majin Buu Kibito Kai absorbed, and they swung, and I used the minus 20. I used the Wolfang Fist minus 15 and the minus 25 from Go Tanks to just get rid of it entirely. And that combo is so strong once you get to this because I don't know if there's I think maybe 3 cards can survive that. Like, it's absurd.
Really, and only the only colors that have options to kind of work around or get rid of that Unison are green and black. Green can blow it up with the 5-drop Boo. Black can negate the skills with Fu Shrouded in Mystery. But not a lot of colors have a readily available option for that Unison. The Unison puts in a lot of work, and it creates, even just by itself, creates a very difficult board to break. And then when you talk about like Cooler that doesn't do much on their turns, just passes with 5 open energy, they're able to pair almost anything with that Unison.
Yeah, and then you have to think of too, because I choose when that +1 auto activates, so you can swing with their cards, and I can -25 a bigger attack. They try to swing if it doesn't have barrier, and then on my turn, I can +15k, give it triple strike, dual attack like it has, and then it restands. And because of 25,000 power Unison, it's really hard to hit it. It's a blocker. It's probably the only Unison that has blocker that I actually like because of the fact that it's 25,000 power base.
That Unison's killer.
It's amazing. I think it is, probably, in my opinion, the best SCR to play with Cooler. The other one would probably be, like Jimmy mentioned, Heroine's Lineage. When him and I were talking about the deck. Frieza's Army Reborn, I hate for this deck so much because, as you see, like, for the longest time, I'm still at 5 life. We're at this stage of the game. And I hate having... Every time I saw Frieza's Army Reborn before my hand, I'm like, I wish this was something else.
Army Reborn telegraphs itself so hard in decks like Cooler that is inherently defensive. And if like suddenly you just get the Cooler player down to 2 life, you instinctively go, okay, they have Army Reborn in hand, they're going to drop it next turn. Like, so you could just prepare for it. It's such a telegraphed move, honestly.
Yep. So to walk it back a couple of turns, talk about the play and what I had in my head going through. So I had already committed to the wide board idea early on, and I didn't see the pieces fast enough. So I stuck with it. I just wanted to see what would happen. And I got punished for it. So I decided to go into the SS4 Gogeta thwarting the Dark Empire. And I knew that the 25k was there, that he was probably going to die. But it would have required an extra card from his hand, and Gogeta already rips 2 off of that. So it would be a 3-card investment plus the Unison proc to be able to get rid of him. And his hand was already getting somewhat low. So then my strategy become put cards in the field. I don't care if he mills me. I just got to get his hand to 0.
Yep.
And you did a pretty good job at holding cards in your hand. There was a couple times where I think you invested a card oddly. Which, I mean, that was fantastic to drop that. It did spend 3 energy to do it, but still is a fantastic option. And I think at this point you're at like how many cards in hand? I think it's like 4.
Yeah, it's like 4 or 5, something like that. Yeah, and I know your deck's getting smaller and smaller there, and every time like I watch someone, like when they pull a card from the deck, I'm trying to see how many cards are left in it.
Yeah, and one of the best things about the Mechikabura leader is it's you remove the balls from game, gain triple attack. The auto is not once per turn. You draw every time you swing, but that is a mandatory auto. So I have to draw 3 cards on my leader effect. Which I would have chose not to if I had the ability, but lo and behold, I have to.
Yeah.
Which one of its biggest strengths is one of its biggest weaknesses in this particular matchup.
Yeah, because lots of people, like we talked about, they don't care too much about milling a whole lot or certain things like that, or drawing their deck too much. But against like Cooler, you have to think so heavily. Like, this is a very draw-heavy deck, and I'm playing against a deck that wants to mill you.
A lot of decks right now draw so much.
They do.
They
really
without considering, Cooler being such a consistent good mill strategy. Like, this is really just the format for Cooler to succeed in. Like, if Cooler was ever going to be a super successful deck, it is set up right now.
Yeah, I would agree.
I would like to say here, we got into a conversation, and I turned my leader sideways, and I said, lead. And you see, I'm looking at the Unison right there, and I'm realizing I fucked up. Like, because one of those attacks was supposed to go at your Unison, because I think you're at 1 marker right now, if I remember correctly.
I am. Mm-hmm.
So one of those attacks from my leader was supposed to go at the Unison. I was going to combo up, kill the Unison, so that I could throw out the big boy 6-drop Mass Saiyan and get that triple strike attack through. But I just turned my leader sideways, said leader, and by the time you were already resolving your side of the effects, I was like, I fucked up. So then I just went on desperation mode where I was just tapping energy for cards and turning them sideways at your leader, just trying to do something. Like, I ended up playing a super combo, and that was game right there. It just blew it up, and I was able to mill me. I had 2 cards left in deck. Would have milled me 1. All you had to do was pass turn.
Yep.
Yeah. So think about your place. Know your place. Read your cards. Except I read my cards, but I didn't know my place, and that's how it happens.
And
Also, Austin cheats. I look at this fucking simp over here. Like, how many cooler items can you have? I'm gonna get you one of those like goofy ass cooler hats with like the spikes on it and shit.
Hell yeah, I'll fucking wear that.
Imagine if that was like some fucking e-girl. Everybody would walk by and be like, "What the fuck's wrong with that guy?" But now he's a cool guy because it's cooler.
Yeah, I love it so much. I love those sleeves. The second I started playing cooler, I fell in love with the deck, and I'm like, I'm getting them mad. I'm getting sleeves made.
with that being said, thank you all for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed today's match. Keep in mind, while Fluff does the outro, there's buttons down below and on the screen.
Yeah, floating around here, we've got a couple videos for you to click on. Check them out if you haven't seen them already. Loved this match. This was a really good match. Kind of a lot of good back and forth. And you saw just kind of the little mistake made a huge difference in the long term of the game. Maybe Austin still wins if Jimmy's attack went through the way that it should have. But it's really hard to tell because of how low Jimmy's deck already was. But thanks for watching, guys. Read your cards, know your plays. Let us make the mistakes so that you don't have to. And as always, fluff out.